Most human beings spend their lives trying to change their reality. They seek better circumstances, better opportunities, better relationships, better conditions. They believe their peace exists somewhere outside of themselves, as if a future event will finally bring them what they have been searching for all along. But there is a truth that the wise have understood for centuries. A simple truth, yet profoundly transformative. You cannot create harmony in your life while disorder reigns in your mind. You cannot find peace in the world while a war continues within you. And you cannot discover the power of your soul while remaining trapped in the noise of your mind. For the true journey is not outward. It is inward. Since childhood, you have been taught to observe the world, to analyze what is happening around you, to understand others, to pursue goals. But very few people have taught you how to observe your own mind, to understand your thoughts, to recognize your illusions, to listen to your soul. And yet, this is where all true transformation begins. Because the mind is an extraordinary servant, but a dangerous master. When left unobserved, it creates fears. It invents scenarios. It feeds worries. It dwells on the past. It fears the future. And little by little, it builds an invisible prison whose bars are made of unconscious beliefs and habits. Most human suffering does not come directly from events. It comes from the interpretation the mind gives to those events. Two people can go through the same challenge. One discovers their strength. The other loses their balance. Why? Because external experiences are filtered through the inner state. That is why self-mastery has always been considered one of the highest forms of wisdom. The one who masters the mind begins to reclaim power over life. The one who masters the mind ceases to be a slave to reactions. The one who masters the mind gradually discovers the deeper voice that exists beyond the mental noise. The voice of the soul. And this is precisely where the first lesson begins. 1. Your mind becomes what you allow it to contemplate. Imagine an ancient temple. At the center of this temple burns a sacred flame. This flame represents your attention. Every day, you decide where it is directed. Toward fear, or toward trust, toward resentment, or toward understanding, toward lack, or toward inner abundance. Most people underestimate the value of their attention. They scatter it everywhere. Into conflicts, into worries, into distractions, into judgments. Then they wonder why they feel empty. But wherever your attention remains, your energy begins to settle. And wherever your energy settles, a reality begins to take shape. The mind is like a silent garden. Every thought is a seed. Every emotion is water that nourishes that seed. Every repetition strengthens its roots. What are you planting each day in the garden of your consciousness? Fear? Doubt? Comparison? Or gratitude? Trust? Presence? Because your mind does not always distinguish between what is real and what is constantly repeated. Eventually, it believes what it hears most often. That is why some people remain trapped in the same patterns for years. Not because they lack potential, but because they unconsciously nourish the same limitations. Every thought you entertain becomes a direction. Every direction becomes a habit. Every habit becomes an identity. And every identity eventually produces a destiny that is consistent with itself. Transformation begins long before visible results appear. It begins in the silent sanctuary of your mind, where no one is watching, where no one is applauding, yet where all future realities are quietly being built. 2. The soul cannot speak when the mind is too noisy. Observe nature. Lakes reflect the sky when they are calm. Stars become visible when night falls. Deep truths often reveal themselves in silence. The soul works in much the same way. It does not shout. It does not force. It does not seek to dominate. It whispers. But the problem is that many people live in a constant state of inner noise. They are constantly thinking, constantly analyzing, constantly worrying. Their minds jump from one problem to another without ever stopping. And within this turmoil, inner wisdom becomes difficult to hear. Yet your soul knows things that your mind cannot immediately understand. It perceives what is aligned with your evolution. It senses what truly nourishes your being. It recognizes the paths that lead to your growth. But to hear this guidance, you must learn to slow down. You must learn to observe without reacting immediately. You must learn to be present. Presence is a doorway to deeper awareness, a doorway to greater understanding, a doorway to a peace that does not depend on circumstances. The more you cultivate this presence, the more you discover something remarkable. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears. You are not your passing emotions. You are the one who observes them. And when this realization arises, a new space is created. A space of freedom. A space of clarity. A space of mastery. It is within this space that the soul begins to reclaim its rightful place. It is within this space that inner wisdom becomes audible. It is within this space that true spiritual transformation begins. For the greatest victory is not to conquer the outer world. The greatest victory is to learn how to govern the inner kingdom. And the one who learns to govern this kingdom discovers a wealth that no circumstance can ever take away. 3. The ego seeks control. The soul seeks understanding. Within every human being, there are two forces that often move in different directions. The first is restless. It wants to control everything, to predict everything, to secure everything. It fears uncertainty. It fears loss. It fears not being recognized. This force is familiar to many, even if they are not fully aware of it. It is the ego. The second force is different. It is quieter, deeper, more stable. It does not seek to possess life. It seeks to learn from it. It does not constantly ask, "How can I control what happens?" Instead, it asks, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" This is the voice of the soul. The problem is that most human beings spend their entire lives listening to the first voice without ever hearing the second. The ego turns every obstacle into a threat, every criticism into an attack, every failure into humiliation, every change into danger. The soul sees something else. It sees opportunities for growth, invitations to evolve, opportunities to develop greater awareness. That is why two people can live through exactly the same situation and come away with completely different experiences. One becomes more closed. The other becomes more awakened. One develops resentment. The other develops wisdom. The difference is not found in the event itself. It is found in the level of consciousness with which the event is experienced. And the further you advance on the path of inner mastery, the more you realize that true freedom is not about controlling the world. It is about no longer being controlled by your own ego. For when the ego stops directing every decision, something new becomes possible. Peace begins to appear. Clarity begins to emerge. And the soul finally finds the space it needs to express itself. If these teachings are already resonating deeply within you, take a moment to support this energy. Leave a like so this message can reach others who are walking their own path of awakening. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring mastery of the mind, inner wisdom, and the deeper laws of consciousness. Because sometimes, a single realization can change the entire direction of a life. And now, let us go even deeper. 4. What you refuse to face will eventually govern you. Many seek the light, but few are willing to explore their shadows. Yet no profound transformation is possible without this encounter. Human beings have a strange habit. They enjoy displaying what they like about themselves, but they hide what disturbs them. Their fears, their wounds, their insecurities, their anger, their jealousy, their regrets. They often hope that time will erase these parts of themselves. But what is ignored does not disappear. What is ignored operates in the shadows. And what operates in the shadows often ends up directing life unseen. An unconscious fear influences decisions. An old wound influences relationships. A limiting belief influences choices. And meanwhile, the person believes all of this is simply the result of circumstances. Spiritual awareness begins when you honestly accept what lives within you. Not to condemn yourself. Not to judge yourself. But to understand. For the light of consciousness possesses immense power. It transforms whatever it illuminates. What was unconscious becomes conscious. What was automatic becomes observable. What once seemed uncontrollable begins to lose its grip. The shadow is not your enemy. It is a part of you waiting to be understood. Every fear that is observed loses part of its power. Every wound that is welcomed begins to heal. Every illusion that is recognized begins to dissolve. And little by little, the energy once used to escape becomes available for growth. 5. Awakening begins when you realize you are not your mind. Observe your mind for a few moments. Notice the thoughts that appear, then disappear. Observe the emotions that rise, then fade away. Observe the memories that return, then drift away. Everything is in motion. Everything is constantly changing. Yet something within you remains present. Something observes. Something sees. Something remains. From childhood until this very day, that silent presence has never disappeared. Thoughts change. Emotions change. Circumstances change. Roles change. But this awareness remains. This is one of the deepest discoveries of the spiritual path. You are not the clouds. You are the sky that observes them. You are not the waves. You are the ocean that carries them. You are not the thoughts that pass through your mind. You are the awareness capable of watching them appear and disappear. And when this understanding ceases to be merely an idea and becomes a lived experience, something changes profoundly. The mind gradually stops being your master. It becomes a tool. Emotions gradually stop being prisons. They become messengers. Circumstances gradually stop defining your identity. They become experiences. And within this new space, a different kind of peace appears. A peace that does not depend on events. A peace that does not depend on success. A peace that does not depend on the approval of others. A peace born from the deep knowing of what you truly are. For the soul was never lost. It was simply covered by noise. And the more you learn to quiet that noise, the more you rediscover the silent truth that has been waiting within you all along. 6. True freedom begins when you stop identifying with your wounds. Most people define themselves by their pain, failures, and fears. But these are experiences, not identities. You are not what happened to you. You are the awareness that moved through it. Healing begins when you stop carrying the past as who you are. The soul does not look at your past. It responds to your present consciousness. 7. The more you know yourself, the less the world can control you. Every day, countless voices try to tell you how to think, feel, and live. But true self-knowledge creates inner stability. You stop seeking constant approval. You stop comparing yourself to others. You begin listening to your own inner wisdom. And that freedom changes everything. 8. Your soul seeks alignment, not success. The world teaches you to chase more. More success. More achievement. More recognition. But the soul seeks alignment. It seeks harmony between who you are and how you live. When your mind, heart, and soul move together, life begins to flow with greater peace, clarity, and purpose. 9. You are here to remember. Life teaches you to add. Spirituality teaches you to let go. Let go of fear. Let go of illusions. Let go of limiting beliefs. Until only your true nature remains. The peace behind the noise. The wisdom behind the fear. The light behind the wounds. You are not here to become someone else. You are here to remember who you have always been. An awakened consciousness. An evolving soul. A limitless inner presence. And that is where the true journey begins.